Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuhu. My dear brothers and sisters, I want to begin by saying Ramadan Mubarak. Allahumma sallimna li Ramadan wa sallim Ramadan lana wa sallimhu minna mutaqabbalan ya Rabbal Alameen. We ask that Allah Ta'ala preserve us for the month of Ramadan. We ask that Allah Ta'ala safeguard the month of Ramadan for us, and that Allah accept Ramadan from us. And this is one of the du'as of the Prophet ﷺ that's related with a chain that is Hasan, a good chain, and it's from the practice of the Salaf, of our ancestors, the Salaf al-Salih, our righteous ancestors, to say this du'a at the beginning of Ramadan. I'm holding in my hand a date. Many of you broke your fast today on this tamr, khajul. And I want to just say that when you break your fast on this date, don't forget that this date is a method for you and me. It's an example of how we should be. Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anh, he narrated that one day the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was with us, and he said to us, do you know that there is a tree that the Muslim resembles? He asked, which of the trees that most resembles the Muslim? Or kama qala sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he said, I wanted to say a nakhla, the date palm, but Abu Bakr and his father Umar, may Allah be pleased with them all, were there, and they were silent, so he felt shy about saying anything. And then finally the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, it is the date palm tree. And he said to his father afterwards, I wanted to say date palm tree, but I was too shy. And Sayyidina Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu said to him, I wish you had said it. It would have been the most precious thing to me. So I want you, when you break your fast, brothers and sisters, to think about why the believer, why the Muslim is like the date palm tree, like the nakhla that produces these dates that we break our fast with, that Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam broke his fast with. And then lastly, before we go into the Jews' gem, I want to share one hadith about the Quran from this collection of 40 hadith on the excellence of the Quran, on the fada'il of the Quran, al-Mubin, by Sheikh al-Imam Allama Mullah Ali Qari. He says, on the authority of Uthman ibn Affan, may Allah be pleased with him, who relates that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, the best of you is he who learns the Quran and teaches it. Related by Ahmed and the compilers of the 6 books of Hadith. A narration of Ibn Majah related from Sa'd radiallahu anh has the variant wording that the elect among you, khiyarukum. In the narration of Ibn Abi Dawood related from Ibn Mas'ud, the wording is, the elect among you is he who recites the Quran and teaches others to recite it. So there's 2 versions of this hadith that I want to share with you today. خَيْرُكُمْ مَنْ تَعَلَّمَ الْقُرْآنَ وَعَلَّمَهُ. The best of you is the one who internalizes, gains knowledge of the meanings of the Quran, who embodies the meanings of the Quran. This is what ta'allama is, who struggles to learn the Quran and teaches the meanings of the Quran to others. They live the Quran and they teach that to others. And then the other narration, خِيَارُكُمْ مَنْ قَرَأَ الْقُرْآنَ وَأَقْرَأَهُ. That the most excellent of you, or the elite, the elite of you, is the one who recites the Quran and teaches others to recite it. So we ask that Allah Ta'ala make us among those who internalize and learn the knowledge of the Quran and teach it to others, as well as those who recite it and teach others to recite it. Today we're looking at gems from the 2nd juz. In this juz, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala responds to the Jews of the time and the accusations that they made when the direction of prayer was changed from the Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem to Al-Kaaba in Mecca. This juz, brothers and sisters, begins at the 142nd ayah of the second section of the Quran, the cow surah, Surah Al-Baqarah. And this juz ends, as I'm sure many of you will be reading tonight and tomorrow, it ends at the 252nd ayah of Surah Al-Baqarah. Importantly, Allah concludes the issue about the changing of the Qibla by indicating that the purification of one's soul, tazkiyat an-nafs, is more important than facing any particular direction in prayer. What's most important is the purification of your soul and not getting caught up in what the particular expression of worship Allah has commanded us to do or Allah has abrogated, as he did with the Qibla. The believer, the Muslim, is only concerned with what their Lord, what Allah has commanded them to do, and that itself is for the purification of our souls. This juz also covers Allah's wisdom, the wisdom of God over a number of matters. Inheritance law is shared, is revealed in detail. Marriage, nikah, hajj, the pilgrimage. We just heard Sheikh Ismail reading about the legal rulings related to the hajj. And most importantly, or most pertinently rather, fasting, siyam. The only place in the Quran to contain such detailed information about this great act of worship known as fasting. The word siyam, the word som, means imsak, or to withhold, to abstain, to do without, to restrain. And so we restrain ourselves from food and drink and indulging in our carnal appetites so that we can restrain the ego, restrain the self, restrain the soul, so that shaitan, the devil, la'natul alayhi wa na'udhu billahi min, may Allah curse him and may Allah protect us from him, so that he has no power over us. He has no influence over us, so that his whisperings do not affect us and we do not heed his whisperings. Throughout this juz, this part of the Quran, and in between, even in its most detailed regulations, Allah stresses again and again the necessity of the human being at all times attaining to taqwa, maintaining taqwa, which is four things according to Sayyidina Ali ibn Abi Talib. Taqwa is al-amalu bit-tanzil. It is to live and implement the revelation. Wal khawfu min al-jalil, and it is to have reverential, respectful fear for the majestic one. Wa rida bil qalil, and it is to be content with just a little, like I'm sure many of you did. May Allah bless you all, who took a little of iftar. You didn't fill your whole plate. You didn't go back for seconds. You were content with just a little food, a little drink. This is how we should be fasting, brothers and sisters. Just taking a little, as the Prophet ﷺ taught us to do, luqaymat, to eat just some morsels. And then he said, wal-isti'dad liyawm ar-rahil, and taqwa is to be prepared, to be preparing always for the day of departure, for our death, our transition. And as we've seen, subhanallah, from recent events, death can come upon us at any time. So we ask Allah Ta'ala to make us from those people who have taqwa of Allah Ta'ala. Taqwa is the greatest provision. Taqwa is the greatest clothing, the greatest garment that one can wear. And those who have taqwa, Allah loves them. And so this is why I call Ramadan the month of love. Because Allah Ta'ala has prescribed fasting, لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ, in order that we cultivate taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that we cultivate this characteristic of reverence, of obedience to Allah, of consciousness and awareness of Allah ta'ala and his commandments, mindfulness of Allah and his commandments that he loves. So this month is an opportunity to become mahbub, to become beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and to increase. Taqwa has layers, it has levels. We'll be talking about this throughout the month, inshallah ta'ala. So we can always, we hope with each Ramadan, we're able to increase in taqwa. In this juz, we are taught by Allah ta'ala that those who have knowledge know that the true qibla, the true direction of prayer of all the prophets has always been Mecca, but it was changed to Jerusalem. And now Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his mission was to revive the way of Prophet Abraham, peace and blessings be upon him. He returned the qibla for humanity, the orientation of prayer, the target of our hearts back to Mecca, so that when we pray, we can connect with the Kaaba, which is connected with every Bayt al-Izzah and Bayt al-Ma'mur in every heaven, and which is underneath the throne, the Arsh of Allah Ta'ala, so that our hearts can be connected with the throne of Allah Ta'ala. And we face the Kaaba so that our societies, our communities, our towns, our cities, and our villages can resemble the blessed city of Mecca, the sanctuary city of Mecca, so that all cities will be cities of peace, cities of safety, cities of refuge for the poor and for the oppressed and for the hungry and for the thirsty, cities of sanctuary cities. In this juz, believers are told that they will be tried, but they should be firm and steadfast and must face trials with patience and prayers. In this juz, Allah's signs and his bounties are everywhere. Allah tells us that his signs and bounties are everywhere, but it is those who worship other than Allah, who associate partners with Allah, those who worship idols, the idols of the heart, of the ego, as well as the idols of stones and money and gold and silver and people. They are the ones who have misplaced their loyalties. We are taught in this surah, in this juz rather, that believers should eat good and permissible food, halal and tayyib food, food that is pure and wholesome, pure and permissible. It's not just enough that the meat you eat, brothers and sisters, is halal, that is zabiha. That's not enough. It should also be tayyib, halalan tayyiba. And the prophets were also commanded to eat food that is halal and tayyib. And it is the beginning. It is when you start to make sure your food is halal and tayyib that you'll see that your heart and your deeds also become halal and tayyib. Inna Allah tayyibun wa inna Allah tayyibun wa la yaqbalu illa tayyiba. Allah is pure, and he only accepts that which is pure. And so food is very important. And that we should never follow the khutuwat of shaitan. We should never follow the footsteps of shaitan. In this juz, we are taught that true piety and righteousness, what they are. And also we are taught some of the rules of punishment related to those who take the lives of others without just or legal cause. And that the person who takes the life of another is as if they've murdered all of humanity. It's as if they've committed genocide. And we seek refuge in Allah from that. Allah also teaches us the rules of wasaya, or bequest in our wills, how to leave a bequest. And may Allah Ta'ala make us of those who have their wills, who prepare for their wills, who write their wills preparing for their death. This is from taqwa. The Prophet ﷺ said, a believer should not go to sleep at night, should not put his head on his pillow except that he has written his will. May Allah give us success. In this juz, Allah Ta'ala teaches us that to fight, that the believers were given in Medina the permission to fight those who had expelled the Muslims from their homes. And so here we see that fighting is defensive. It is as a means of safeguarding life and safeguarding property from aggressors. In this juz, we are taught to appreciate Allah's bounties and that all human beings originally, and when you go back in history, to know that all human beings were one community, and that the divisions that we have, divisions of culture and ethnicity, and divisions of tribe and nationality and empires, these came later. And so again, the way of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and one of the meanings, the teachings and the principles of the Hajj is to bring humanity back to its original oneness. We were one ummah, ummatun wahida. We were one community. And so whether we are black or brown or white or Indian or Pakistani or Bengali, we are supposed to love each other as brothers and sisters, regardless of the history, regardless of the politics, whether we're from North America or South America, whether we are from Europe or we're from Asia, the humanity through faith, through Iman, can again become one community. Some important questions are answered in this juz. The questions about whether war is permissible in the sacred months, about the permissibility of intoxicants and gambling, charity, giving charity with the money of orphans, and the questions regarding divorced women and their situation. All of this is outlined in this juz. The laws of divorce, talaq, and the rules of remarriage of divorced women and widowers are also addressed in this juz. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not, as you see in some cultures, and unfortunately in some Muslim cultures today, a divorced woman is looked down upon. There is stigma that she has to carry the burden of. Allah Ta'ala gives her a path. Allah Ta'ala gives her a path for reintegration into family life, into the community. And we know the Prophet Muhammad himself, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he married a number of divorced women, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Fighting in the cause of Allah, al-qital, is mentioned in this juz. Again, fighting for the pleasure of Allah Ta'ala, to establish the deen of Allah and defend the lives and properties of the believers, is told through the stories of the Israelites, the Bani Israel. And then lastly, brothers and sisters, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala relates the story of Nabi Dawood alayhi salam, who we know in the Judeo-Christian tradition as King David, Prophet David, peace and blessings be upon him. His story, and this is a story that's mentioned in the Quran, and it's also mentioned in the Bible. Not exactly the way Allah mentions it. Allah corrects anything. Whenever you see these stories in the Quran that are mentioned in the Bible, if there's any mistakes in the narrations in the Bible, Allah corrects them. So the story of Dawood and Jalut, of David and Goliath, is a very important story, because it teaches us how the small band that was with Saul alayhi salam, and through Dawood alayhi salam, how they defeated the forces, the army of Goliath that no one thought could be defeated. And this, again, the lesson here for the Muslims is that don't ever be discouraged when you see material obstacles that look like they are greater than what you can handle. It is not through your physical or political or economic power that Muslims gain victory and success. It is through taqwa. It is through obedience to Allah, obedience to Allah, obedience to Allah. It is through Iman. It is through sabr. It is through all of these qualities that we'll be learning about. May Allah Ta'ala bless all of you. May Allah Ta'ala give us success. May Allah Ta'ala help make the Quran the light of our hearts. May Allah Ta'ala make it the springtime of our hearts. May Allah Ta'ala make it the dispeller of our sorrows and anxieties. Again, brothers and sisters, after we sign off, be sure to pray Isha. If you have not already, be sure to pray Taraweeh with your families, 8 rakats or 20 rakats. Recite whatever is easy for you from the Quran or from memory, or whatever is easy for you to read from the Mus'haf. May Allah Ta'ala accept your fasting and your standing. Inshallah, tomorrow morning at 5:30 a.m., I will be teaching again from the teachings, the writings of the great scholar Sheikh Muhammad Jalaluddin Rumi, who is America's best-selling poet. And we'll be reading from the treasury of Rumi. I hope you can join us. And that will not be on this particular Zoom channel, but on our regular Zoom channel. You can find all of the information on our website, on our Ramadan page. Jazakumullah khairan. Inshallah, I think we're done. Bismillah. Are there any announcements from the administration?
No announcement. Jazakallah khair.
Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.